Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to another League of Primos weekly review. Yes, another episode of LOPWR. We had a lot of good things happening this week. You won't want to miss that. Somebody's getting a new name this week. The Torture Wheel gets a revamp, and we have some movement in the standings this week. All this and more on this episode of LOPWR.
Step right up, it's time to review your team stinks, well maybe that's you. It's LOPWR, LOPWR time!
What you guys think about the intro? You like it? Either way, this gets us into our first game, the I Put the Trash in Trash Pandas versus Tom Hanks' Hungry Hippos, the battle of the longest freaking names in the whole league. It's actually kind of annoying to sit there and say that and type that out. Keep in mind that due to last week's Torture Wheel, I would have to play with the worst roster chosen by ChatGPT, which turns out ChatGPT did an amazing job on giving me the worst roster. I had 0 people score over 14.5 points this week. I would have started Lamar Jackson over Trevor Lawrence. That's a 20-point difference in their scores. I would have started Jahmyr Gibbs over Miles Sanders. That was a 19-point difference in their scores. And then I would have started DJ Moore over Booty who played like Booty, first of all, from the Patriots. That was a difference of, I believe, 8 points. That's 47 points. I didn't have that. I would have had if I didn't do that punishment. And I lost by 40. So you can see why the Torture Wheel's getting a revamp. I feel like it's kind of dumb that I shouldn't be doing that with the Torture Wheel. But Christian isn't beating the lack of allegations from being lucky anytime soon, because he only had one person score over 15 points, and that was Jonathan Taylor with 39.8. But hey, a win is a win for him. He remains undefeated, so I guess I can't be salty. After that, we have Dracula Beeflo versus Branditos Banditos. One team undefeated, the other one looking to get a win column in the win column.
Today, Junior?
Yep, I'm going to keep that. That's not going into an outtake. Dracula Flo got 17.17 from Baker, 16.1 from H.A.N., and a solid 29.4 from Nico Collins. Brandon got 19.2 from Kyron Williams, and then a whopping 30.6 from the Vikings backup running back Jordan Mason. However, no one else showed up to play for him, as Simi would win easily 122.02 to 100.08.
We straight gassing, cutting straight to the bricks.
That gets us into a really great game this week. Lauren's Optimum team versus Red Lobster Cheddar Biscuits. The battle of two teams who are looking for their first win. Cheddar Biscuits got 19.22 from Drake May, 16.1 from Bijan Robinson, 20 from Devontae Smith, and then 27.1 from Marcus Andrews. Lauren had to try and match that, so she got 15 from the Steelers D, 15.9 from passive Tyreek Hill, 23.02 from Haley Steinfeld's husband, 24.7 from Ricky Pearsall, and 24.9 from Marion Hampton, who finally shows life this season, which gets the job done for Lauren as she wins 137.42 to 132.72, decided by 4.7 points this week. Actually, this is one of the cooler wins this week because of what happened during it. So Lauren has the Steelers defense, and Jesse had Drake May and Ramondre Stevenson. Why that's cool is because May and Stevenson both had 3 turnovers combined, so it's a 12-point swing from the turnovers in that game. 6 points going to Lauren from the 6 points lost from Ramondre and Drake May. I thought that was cool, but shout out Lauren getting a win this season. This gets us into Kevin James Hot versus Bin Laden's Bombers. Bin Laden looking to start a winning streak, and our defending champ Kevin James looking to come back after a great showing, but devastating loss last week. He had the second highest points, but lost to the highest scorer last week. Can't really do anything about that. He got 20.6 from Smith and Jigba, 19.6 from Justin Herbert, 18 from Kenny Walker, and 27.8 from Puka Nacua. But the big one being 32 points from the Vikings defense. 32 points from a whole defense. Absolutely insane. They had 2 interceptions, 3 fumble recoveries, and Isaiah Rodgers had 2 defensive touchdowns. Former Eagles legend. Kind of wish they kept him this year. However, kind of like the Cowboys versus the Bears, Bin Laden just did not come to play this week. Highest scorer being his kicker, Joshua Carty, which is saying much. He had 15 points, including the 2 blocks from the Philadelphia Eagles in their 26-7 comeback win. But Bin Laden dive bombs to a terrible 78 points this week, as Kevin James once again shows why he hates terrorists.
God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your engine!
He would win the game 151.9 to 78, a butt whooping of 73.1 points. There can't be a higher blowout than that, right? Well, that gets us into El Hamburglar versus Big Tree City Big Bears. El Hamburglar looking to stay undefeated, and Nick looking to continue to have not injured players. El Hamburglar got 15.42 from Bo Nix and 20.7 from Aquafor St. Brown. Nick came out to play this week, though. He got 29.04 from Jalen Hurts, who had 40 yards on the ground, a rushing touchdown, 226 passing yards, and 3 passing touchdowns, and an amazing 26-7 comeback. Did I mention the Eagles came back from 26-7 and blocked the kick in the final seconds? I may not have mentioned that. He had 24 from CMC, 16 from the Bucs defense, 19.5 from Keenan Allen, Bears legend, 29 from Hunter Henry, and then a whopping 36.4 from Knuckles, aka David Montgomery. Yes, that is his nickname. Look it up. Nick would win easily in the biggest blowouts in league history, 184.14 to 82.52, an incredible 101.62 blowout, almost as bad as the Lions beating the Bears 52-21. We then have Kevin's awesome Kevin Array versus Alma's All-Stars, our 14th pick versus the 1 pick, and surprisingly our 14th pick comes in undefeated while our 1 pick comes in with 0 wins on the season. Will this change? Well, Kevin had a lot of double-digit scores but only managed 2 over 15 points. Unfortunately, neither of them was his number 1 overall pick, Jamar Chase. He got 15.3 from Trey McBride, 30.8 from Cortland Sutton. How much would Dimitri respond with his first round pick Jaden Daniels being out due to injury? Well, he responded pretty well. May I add, he also put him on IR, which means that Dimitri is paying attention. So good job, Dimitri. Dimitri got 15.2 from Roma Dunze, 17.3 from Rashawn Bateman, 17.8 from George Pickens, 17 from the Seahawks defense, 21.2 from Jake Ferguson, and then 24.4 from Garrett Wilson as he cruises to a 3rd straight victory, staying undefeated, winning 158.24 to 114.76, a 43-point win there. And that's going to get us into our game of the week, Hogwarts Wizards versus Abe Lincoln's Rusty Trombones. Allison only had 3 people score over 15 points. She had 15.82 from Indiana Jones, 16 from Colts defense, and then an amazing 27.8 from James Cook, who's actually running back 2 right now in fantasy, so good pickup for her. How would Abe Lincoln respond? Not too well. He only had 2 people score over 15, 15.7 from Chris Olave, and then 27.9 from A.J. Brown, now that the Eagles remember that A.J. Brown actually exists. Let's keep in mind he had 0 points from 3 players this week. CeeDee Lamb, who got knocked out early, Evan Ingram, and Tyler Bass, who are both out for the game anyway. However, you may laugh at that, but he would have beaten me and 2 other people this week, which is insane to think about. But Allison wins this one 133.62 to 96.76, another blowout, 37 points there. But the biggest story, though, is the hate-love relationship between Geno Smith and Allison, as it appears he only likes playing when Allison puts him on her bench. I guess whenever he writes, she just doesn't call back. Right back? Whatever. Allison wins.
They wrote me off. I ain't right back, though.
But guys, we have 3 undefeated teams remaining. And funny enough, they are the last 3 picks in the draft this year. And then 3 out of the top 4 picks from teams who had those picks have not won a single game yet. So maybe having the last pick in the draft is better. I am also almost considering letting the consolation winner choose which spot in the draft they would rather have. Let me guys know if you're interested in that or if that's just kind of silly. Maybe this is just all coincidence. Who knows? We also have a huge swap from last week. Last week we had 5 games decided by less than 10 points. This week all but 1 game was decided by over 20 points. Injuries are playing a crucial part in the game this season so far, guys. So make sure you're making trades. Make sure you're checking the waiver wire. And make sure you're please setting your lineups. I try to get those messages out as soon as possible so you guys know there's a game happening. That's what gets into our highest scorer of the week. This week was Mr. Nicholas Brust. He had 184.14 points this week. He's actually combined for 320 points the last 2 weeks. So his offense is booming. I asked him what he had to say. He said, I would like to say thank you to my new defense for not getting negative points this week. The injury bug has stayed away from him this year so far, and we'll see what happens when he continues, when he plays Allison. Maybe that's going to change, but it's finally been helping him, so I guess we can just play the music. And the lowest scorer, yet again, is Bin Laden's Bombers, sir. A second lowest score has hit the Bin Laden's Bombers. This is his second time in 3 weeks this season. He scored 78 points this week and then 73 in week 1, which is not very good. I asked him what he had to say. He said 14 team sucks. I just think you're coping, Christian. Maybe someone needs to trade or sign some more people. Anyway, let's play some copyrighted music that I always play for him.
Fuck Bin Laden. Fuck Bin Laden. She wanted to fuck me harder than the U.S. government. Fuck Bin Laden. She was a freaky kind of girl.
And this is going to get us into our League of Primos torture wheel. I have made some changes this week. No longer will I have punishments that will affect my team play. I realized how dumb that was to have stuff that's going to make me try and lose for punishments that I only have to do if I lose. So instead of, me getting punished again and again and again, like I'm getting hit by a Winter Soldier ult, that's a Marvel Rivals reference, so you guys don't know. We've been playing a lot of that. Now all the punishments are something I have to do not related to fantasy football. I will also be removing them after they are done so we don't have any repeats like me changing my name. However, this week I lost, which means Christian got to choose my name, and my new team name is Pit Smellers Stinky Feet Edition. That's a Kyle Pitts reference. May I remind you that Kyle Pitts is not playing that bad this year. He's actually been kind of overplaying as I thought he would. So that's my new team name. I'd like to thank Allison. I know Allison's probably keeping away all the worst team names away from me, so thank you there. But that's going to get us into our punishment wheel. So I will go ahead and try to spin this wheel. Whatever I land on, I will be doing this next week if I lose. So let's spin that wheel there. If I lose this week, no shot. No. Okay, I gotta win. If I lose this week, I'll be doing a solo dog challenge. There's no way. Oh, well, even if I lose, at least I'll get to remove it. If you guys don't know what the Doug challenge is, it's not really called Doug challenge, really. It's just a challenge that Doug did. Brooklyn always reminds me of this. But basically, I have to go in a drive-thru and then say, hey, I'm going to have what the person in front of me ordered. I got to win this week. That's going to be rough. And that's going to get us into this season's new segments. That's right. Who's busting?
I'm about to bust.
And boy, there were a lot of people busting hard this week. We go in draft order. So Kevin, you're first. Jamar Chase projected 20.03 and only scored 8.9 with Browning at QB. Negative 11.13. A bust off the that's all, folks. A bust off the bat this week and drops Jamar from wide receiver 8 to wide receiver 10. Not good for the first overall pick. We then have Brandon, who drafted Saquon Barkley. Saquon projected 21.25 against a Rams team he dominated the last 2 games they played in. However, this time he only put up 9.5 points. That's negative 11.75. And that's right, there's no time for refractory period this time as a back-to-back bust to start off this segment. This moves Saquon from running back 10 to running back 15. We have Lauren and Haley Steinfeld's husband, Josh Allen, projected 25.67, scored 23.02, which is solid. This moves him from quarterback 3 to quarterback 2. After that is Jesse with Bijan Robinson, projected 23.36, but only scored 16.1. The first time that Bijan did not boom. A negative 7.26 this week. He falls from running back 1 to running back 3. We then have Nick with CMC under high projection with 22.78, but he actually got his first positive week, 24 points and plus 1.22, and he does not move. He stayed at running back 4 this week. After that, we have Allison with Justin Jefferson, projected 21.62 points, only scored 11.1. I think this is the worst bust, especially when... I think that is worth a bust, especially with the team that scored 38 points against the bad Bengals defense. That makes him negative 25.58 on the season, but he goes from wide receiver 29 to wide receiver 28, so progress. We then have my pick, Jahmyr Gibbs, although I couldn't play him this week because of the stupid punishment. He was projected 19.27, scored 26.9, a solid 7.63 points. This moves him from running back 11 to running back 5. We then have Nick Smith with CeeDee Lamb. He was projected 22.1 points and got hurt the first quarter, finished with 0 points. I mean, that's about as big as a bust as it's going to get. Negative 22.1, and he goes from wide receiver 5 to wide receiver 18. We then have White Christian with Malik Neighbors. He's projected 21.94, scored 3.3. Another major bust for our lowest scorer this week. This dropped Neighbors from wide receiver 2 to wide receiver 6. After that is Dylan with Puka Nacua, projected 21.6 and scored 27.8, a plus 6.2, which is solid. This keeps him at wide receiver 1 for the league. We then have Animo St. Brown for Daniel, projected 21.35, scored 20.7. That is about as dead on as you can get. This moves St. Brown from wide receiver 3 to wide receiver 2. We then have Christian Darkwind with Ashton Gianti, projected 16.99 and only scored 6.3. This gives him 3 straight weeks of busting. That's a lot of bust, as Gianti is now negative 29.77 on the season. He drops from running back 27 to running back 33 on the season. I mean, so far he looks like this could be our biggest bust. We then have Semi with Devon A-Chain, projected 20.98, scored 16.1, negative 4.88. Now, not too bad. This actually keeps him at running back 6. Finally, we have Dimitri, the Jaden Daniels. However, Jaden Daniels was injured. He's projected 0, scored 0, obviously. But since he scored 0 and is a first-round pick, that's just a bust by default from me. I mean, one of the best parts about playing is actually playing. At least if you bust, you get 2 points from your player. You're getting 0 from that. This actually drops him from QB 11 in the league to QB 22. Not looking too good for that. So keep in mind, when I name the bust of the year at the end of the year, there's a lot of emphasis on his position ranking in reference to his draft pick rather than just projecting his point totals. I think there's more, emphasis, like if I drafted running back who's the 6th running back in the draft, but he's the best running back in the league, that's a boo, right? You scored more. I think there should be more emphasis on that. What do you guys think? Do you guys think position ranking matters more? Or do you guys think that point difference for projections matter more? This gets us into our power rankings. A lot of movement this week. Red Lobster Cheddar Biscuits falls back to number 14. Number 13 is Kevin's Awesome Kevin Array. 12 is Lauren's Optimum Team. That's actually moving up of 2 spots from last week. Congratulations, Lauren. 11 is Branditos Banditos. 10 is Bin Laden's Bombers, falling back another rank. 9 is formerly I Put the Trash in Trash Pan, is now the Pit Smellers Smelly Feet Edition. Number 9, we have to get used to that. Number 8, Abe Lincoln's Rusty Trombones, who also falls back another rank. Number 7 is El Hamburger, who drops 3 ranks from last week. We then have at number 6, Kevin James Hot. Number 5, Big Tree City Big Bears, jumping up in the ranks. 4, almost all-stars, falling back 1 rank, which makes no sense to me. He had the 2nd highest score this week and is still undefeated. We then have Hogwarts Wizards after back-to-back wins at 3. Dracula B-Flow, who again wins but falls back a rank. And then Tom Hanks' Hungry Hippos, which I don't understand how, but he jumped to number 1, considering he scored lower than 2, 3, and 4 this week, and then he played the 3rd lowest scoring player. I didn't understand how he jumped to 1 in the rankings, but he won, and he's undefeated, so you can't argue with the results there. And that's going to get us into our games this week. First one, the Red Lobster Cheddar Biscuits versus the Smelly Pit Smelly Feet edition. I look to bounce back from 2 straight losses and actually get to play the players I want. And Cheddar Biscuits looks to win their first game. We then have Kevin James Hot versus Lauren's Optimum Team. The reigning champ looks to stay hot, and Lauren looks to win 2 in a row. We then have Branditos Banditos versus El Hamburglar. Both are looking to bounce back from a loss, and Brandon's still looking for that first win of the year. We then have Bin Laden's Bombers versus Kevin's Awesome Team, as Kevin's Awesome Kevin Array looking for his first win of the season there, and Bin Laden's just looking to actually score for once. Like, goodness gracious, dude, why aren't you putting up any points? We then have Dracula B-Flow versus Hogwarts Wizards, ranked number 2 and 3 in our power rankings. Will Simi stay undefeated? I'm very surprised that Simi and that Dimitri are both undefeated right now. Christian's whatever. He's undefeated, but he's been in the league for a while and actually pays attention to all the games. They're kind of just not caring and still winning, which is kind of irritating, but yeah, sometimes that's how it goes. We then have Abe Lincoln's Rusty Trombones versus Almost All-Stars. Dimitri, like I just said, also undefeated and looking to keep it that way. And then we get our game of the week. We have Big Tree City Big Bears versus Tom Hanks' Hungry Hippos. Undefeated number 1 in the power rankings versus Nick, who's had back-to-back great weeks. That should be a good one. And that's all I have for this week of Liga Primos, weekly review or LOPWR. I hope you guys had a good one. If you guys have any comments, concerns, questions, please ask. I always want to hear some feedback from you guys. If you guys want something added, if these are too long, let me know. I like doing them. And then just make sure you guys are looking out for the waiver wire. Make some trades. Again, injuries are being so big this year. They've been such a big factor. Just please keep an eye out for those. Thank you guys for a great week. And I hope to see you guys in the next episode of LOPWR.